Hey, if she's not thinking about you when you're not around, you're doing it wrong. There's a psychological attraction most men never tap into. The kind that plants you so deep in her mind that you become her last thought before she sleeps, and her first when she wakes up. That's not luck. That's not looks. That's obsession psychology. And it's completely learnable. Most guys are out here chasing. The man she fantasizes about, he's not chasing anything. He understands female desire triggers in ways that feel almost unfair. And today, that's exactly what we're breaking down. The real mechanics behind becoming her main fantasy, even in her dreams. Stay locked in. Because what's coming will shift the way you see attraction forever. And if you leave without the full picture, you'll keep getting the same results. This isn't about tricks or manipulation. This is about becoming the kind of man whose presence alone creates an emotional imprint she simply can't erase. And hey, if this kind of raw, honest content speaks to you, do something small but powerful. Hit that like, drop a comment, and share this with a brother who needs to hear it. You might just change someone's trajectory today. The psychology of obsession, how to become her main fantasy, even in her dreams. Let's be real for a second. Most men spend their entire lives trying to get a woman's attention without ever understanding what truly captures it. They buy the right clothes, say the right things, and still feel invisible. Here's what nobody tells them. Attraction isn't built on what a man does. It's built on what a man is. The real foundation of obsession psychology starts not with tactics, but with identity. Who a man becomes on the inside is what makes him impossible to ignore on the outside. The average man operates from a place of need. He texts too fast, gives too much, and shows his hand before the game even begins. And that neediness, a woman feels it immediately, even when he thinks he's hiding it well. This is where male dominance mindset becomes everything. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about being so grounded in who he is that her approval simply isn't the fuel he runs on. That shift alone changes the entire dynamic of how she perceives him. Understanding female desire triggers is like learning a language most men never bother to study. Women don't desire what's easy. They desire what feels rare, what feels earned, what feels slightly out of reach. It's not manipulation. It's just how attraction dynamics actually work. Think about it. She doesn't dream about the guy who was always available. She dreams about the one who made her feel something. And feeling starts with tension, not comfort. Comfort is safe. Tension is magnetic. There's a concept called psychological attraction that goes way deeper than physical appearance. It operates on a subconscious level, below logic, below reason. When a man triggers this, a woman can't always explain why she can't stop thinking about him. She just knows something about him feels different. And that different isn't accidental. It's the result of dark masculine energy being expressed in a way that's grounded, intentional, and completely authentic. This isn't performance. This is presence at its most powerful form. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The brain is wired for patterns, and when something breaks a pattern, it creates what psychologists call an open loop. A man who knows how to create emotional open loops becomes mentally addictive. This is the core of emotional imprinting. She keeps thinking about him because her brain is still trying to close a loop he deliberately left open. Every unanswered question, every unexpected silence, every moment he didn't react the way she expected, all of that becomes a hook embedded in her memory. A man's seductive presence has very little to do with what he says, and everything to do with how he makes a room feel when he walks in. It's the stillness in his voice, the way he doesn't rush, the way he looks at her like he sees through the surface. Women pick up on energy with an almost supernatural sensitivity. If his energy is scattered, needy, or performative, she checks out mentally before he even finishes his sentence. But if his energy is calm, centered, and deeply sure of itself, she leans in, every single time. One of the most overlooked skills in masculine frame control is the ability to lead a conversation without dominating it. There's a difference between a man who talks at a woman and a man who guides her emotionally through an interaction. The first exhausts her, the second intrigues her. A man with strong frame doesn't chase topics or approval. He sets the tone, holds the space, and lets her come to him. That's not arrogance. That's confidence working quietly in the background, doing more than 100 compliments ever could. Here's something most men never consider. Desire manipulation isn't about games. It's about understanding the rhythm of attraction and knowing when to step forward and when to step back. A man who is always available teaches a woman that his presence has no weight. But a man who moves with intention, who sometimes goes quiet, who doesn't always respond immediately, creates a psychological gap that her mind rushes to fill. And the mind always fills gaps with curiosity, with longing, with thoughts that keep coming back uninvited. Subconscious attraction is the deepest layer of desire, and it's where fantasies are actually born. It doesn't respond to logic or effort. It responds to emotion, to feeling, to the residue a man leaves behind after an interaction ends. When she's driving home and she's still thinking about something he said, that's subconscious attraction doing its work. It's not something she chose, it just happened. And the man who understands this stops trying to impress and starts focusing on creating moments that linger, moments that don't resolve cleanly, moments that stay. Sexual polarity is one of the most powerful and least understood forces in attraction. It's the energetic contrast between masculine and feminine, and without it, desire flatlines. A man who is too agreeable, too soft, too eager to please collapses this polarity. And when polarity collapses, attraction follows. This isn't about being harsh or dominant in a toxic way. It's about being decisively masculine, holding a direction, having a perspective, owning a point of view. That contrast is what creates the electric charge she actually feels in her body. Consider a man who once had everything a woman could want on paper: a good job, a kind heart, and genuine intentions. Yet every relationship he entered eventually faded. Women liked him, but never wanted him with intensity. One day, he stopped focusing on being good enough and started building himself into someone who lived by his own standards. He stopped seeking validation. He developed high-value behavior not to impress anyone, but because his own respect for himself demanded it. Within months, the women in his life responded differently. He hadn't changed his face, he had changed his frequency. Attraction dynamics are not static. They shift based on how a man shows up over time. One of the fastest ways a man destroys attraction is by becoming predictable. Predictability breeds comfort, and comfort, while necessary in long-term connection, kills desire at the early stages. A man who wants to stay in her mind has to keep her slightly off balance, not confused, not anxious, but genuinely curious about what he'll do next. That unpredictability isn't chaos, it's intentional mystery. And mystery is the oxygen that keeps the flame of obsession alive. When a man truly understands female psychology decoded, he stops taking her behavior personally. He sees the patterns beneath the behavior. He understands that a woman testing him isn't cruelty. It's biology. She's wired to filter for strength, for consistency, for a man who doesn't crumble under pressure. When he passes those tests, not by performing, but by genuinely being unshakable, something shifts in how she sees him. He goes from being just another option to being the man she compares everyone else to. That's the threshold most men never cross, because they take the tests personally. There's a raw, ancient pull called primal desire, and it operates beneath every polished conversation, every romantic dinner, every carefully crafted text. It's the part of her that doesn't care about logic. It's the part that responds to how he carries himself at 2 a.m. when no one is watching, to how he handles pressure, to how little he needs from the world around him. Building this kind of pull isn't about being primitive. It's about being real in a world full of performance. Authenticity at the deepest level triggers something in her that manufactured charm simply cannot reach. An irresistible aura is not something a man puts on. It's something that radiates from the inside out when he has done the real work on himself. Men who have it usually can't explain it. They just know they feel right in their own skin. It comes from having a clear sense of direction, from not apologizing for who he is, from being genuinely interested in life beyond her. That full life, that sense of purpose, is one of the most attractive things a woman can witness. A man with a mission is inherently more magnetic than a man whose only mission is her. Confidence dominance is not volume. It's not aggression. It's the quiet certainty a man carries when he walks into a room knowing exactly who he is. It shows up in micro moments. The way he doesn't fidget when silence falls, the way he takes his time before answering, the way he smiles like he knows something she doesn't. These small signals register in her nervous system before her conscious mind can process them. She feels safe and intrigued at the same time, a combination that is, neurologically speaking, the exact cocktail that turns a man into a recurring thought she didn't ask for. Emotional tension is the invisible thread that keeps her mind returning to him long after the conversation ends. Most men try to resolve tension because it feels uncomfortable, but a man who understands attraction lets tension breathe. He doesn't rush to fix every silence or clarify every ambiguous moment. He lets her sit with it. He lets her wonder. That wondering is where obsession is born. It's in the unresolved space between what happened and what could happen next. A man who masters this becomes, without exaggeration, the most mentally consuming presence in her life. Quick pause. Right here. If this content is opening your eyes to things you've been missing all along, do yourself a favor and hit that like button right now, then subscribe to the channel before you forget. This is the kind of knowledge most men never get access to, and we're just getting started. Don't let the algorithm bury what could genuinely change your life. Stay in. We're continuing. The scarcity mindset, when applied correctly, is one of the most powerful psychological tools a man can develop. Not scarcity as in playing games, but scarcity as in genuine abundance, having so much going on in his life that his time and attention are naturally limited. When a woman senses that a man's world doesn't revolve around her, she instinctively wants more of him. It's counterintuitive, but deeply real. The man who is slightly hard to reach, not because he's pretending, but because he's actually living, becomes the one she thinks about when she's supposed to be thinking about something else. Psychological seduction is not about saying the right lines. It's about creating the right experience. A man who seduces psychologically makes a woman feel truly seen, not flattered, not complimented into comfort, but genuinely understood in a way she rarely encounters. That experience of being seen by a grounded, intentional man is so rare that it becomes addictive. She doesn't just want more of him, she starts to feel like she needs more of him. That shift from want to need is exactly where fantasy begins to take root, quietly and completely beneath her awareness. In any social or relational environment, there exists a dominance hierarchy, and women are exquisitely sensitive to where a man sits within it. This doesn't mean he needs to be the loudest or the most powerful person in the room. It means he needs to be the most comfortable person in the room, a man who is at ease with himself, who doesn't shrink or perform for approval, who holds his ground without effort, signals status in a way that bypasses her rational mind entirely. It speaks directly to something ancient in her, something that equates that ease with safety, strength, and desire. Masculine edge is the quality that separates a man she respects from a man she craves. It's a certain sharpness, a refusal to be fully tamed, a hint of unpredictability that keeps her on her toes without ever making her feel unsafe. It's the reason she gravitates toward the man who seems like he has a world of his own, a world she isn't fully invited into yet. That edge isn't cultivated through aggression. It's built through discipline, through standards that don't bend, through a quiet confidence that says he's going somewhere whether or not she's along for the ride. Validation withdrawal is one of the most misunderstood concepts in attraction, and when used correctly, it rewires how she thinks about a man entirely. Most men hand out compliments like currency, flooding her with approval in hopes of buying her interest. But the man who doesn't chase her validation, who notices her without needing her, who appreciates without depending, creates something far more powerful, a void. And into that void, her imagination pours everything he hasn't said. That imaginative space is where she starts writing her own story about him, and in that story, he is always the one she wants. Understanding obsession triggers means understanding the gap between what is given and what is withheld. A man who reveals everything, who explains himself constantly, who leaves no mystery, gives her nothing to think about. But a man who's open yet layered, warm yet deep, present yet slightly elusive, keeps her mind working even when he's not in the room. Practical example, stop over-explaining your decisions. Stop filling every silence with words. Let her be curious. Let her ask. That small shift in behavior, consistently applied, creates a pull that no amount of effort or charm can manufacture artificially. The power of detachment is perhaps the most misread concept in masculine psychology. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means a man is so anchored in his own life, his own goals, his own emotional stability, that the outcome of any single interaction doesn't define him. When a woman feels that a man is genuinely okay with or without her, something in her shifts profoundly. The chase reverses. She starts investing more. She starts showing up differently, not because he manipulated her, but because genuine detachment is one of the rarest and most attractive qualities a deeply feminine woman can encounter in a man. Every concept discussed here builds toward one central truth. A man becomes her fantasy not by trying to be her fantasy, but by becoming so fully himself that she can't help but fantasize. Obsession psychology is not a formula. It's a byproduct of a man who has done the inner work, who knows his own value, who moves through the world with quiet certainty. Resources like No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover, or content from coaches like Corey Wayne and David Tien, offer structured frameworks that go deeper into these principles for men serious about this transformation. Building this presence takes time, but the daily habits that reinforce it are simple and compounding. Physical discipline, whether through strength training, martial arts, or competitive sport, builds the bodily confidence that radiates dark masculine energy without a single word being spoken. Mental sharpness through reading, journaling, or learning new skills builds the depth that makes conversation with him feel rare. Channels like Better Bachelor, Masculine Psychology with Dr. David Tien, and books like The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida are excellent starting points for men ready to build from the inside out. Here is what ties all of this together. Subconscious attraction is not triggered by what a man does once. It's triggered by who he consistently is. A man can have one powerful interaction and create a spark, but the man who lives these principles daily, who embodies high-value behavior, not as a strategy, but as a standard, becomes someone whose presence is felt even in his absence. She thinks about him not because he said something clever last Tuesday. She thinks about him because every interaction with him has left her with more questions than answers, and her mind simply will not let it go. And here's the part most men never reach. When a man fully steps into his masculine edge, when he stops shrinking, stops chasing, stops explaining himself to people who haven't earned that access, something remarkable happens. The world around him reorganizes. The right people move closer, the wrong ones fall away. And the woman who is meant to experience his presence at its fullest, she doesn't just notice him, she dreams about him, not because he tried to be her fantasy, but because he became someone worth fantasizing about. That's the real psychology of obsession. And it starts the moment a man decides to stop settling for less than his full potential. So here's the real question. Are you still going to be the man she barely remembers? Or are you ready to become the one she can't stop thinking about? Everything covered here points to one direction. The man who wins an attraction isn't the one who tries the hardest. He's the one who has built himself so deeply and so deliberately that his presence alone does the work. Obsession psychology isn't a trick, it's a lifestyle. It's the result of a man who chose himself first, built his masculine frame control, stopped chasing validation, and started living with genuine confidence dominance. Now it's your turn. Take one concept from today and apply it this week. Just one. Whether it's practicing power of detachment, building your seductive presence, or simply stopping yourself from over-explaining, small shifts compound into massive changes over time. Ask yourself honestly, where have you been shrinking? Where have you been chasing instead of leading? Where have you handed over your power without even realizing it? Drop a comment below and finish this sentence. The version of me I'm building is, let's see who's serious about this work. And to every man who watched this all the way through, that means something. Seriously, it means you're not looking for shortcuts. You're looking for real transformation. And that alone puts you ahead of most. Thank you, genuinely, for being here and for investing this time in yourself. If this hit different, do something simple but powerful. Hit that like button. Share this with a man in your circle who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's so much more coming, and you don't want to miss what's next. The best version of you isn't coming. He's being built right now.